We are so pleased to welcome Nicole Beharie. She is a graduate of Juilliard, and her first feature credit was the drama American Violet, which one top critic referred to as one of the most thrilling feature film debuts in years. And you know her from a bunch of films, Steve McQueen's Shame, 42 with the late Chadwick Boseman, R.I.P. Chadwick. And she was also a series regular and fan favorite on Sleepy Hollow. Right now, she can be seen in the Hulu anthology Monsterland, in a truly frightening episode I saw last night called New Orleans. And earlier this year, she starred in the Sundance film Miss Juneteenth from writer-director Channing Godfrey Peoples, for which she is getting much-deserved award season buzz. Welcome, Nicole.
Hello. That's a lot to listen to. It's very strange.
Yeah.
Wow.
Do you watch the things that you're in, or not really?
I have to. Well, we used to have to, right? Because we had to go to the screenings and do talkbacks. So I see them probably once, and then ADR and voice, and the voiceover, cleaning up and post kind of thing. But I'm not going to watch it more than once or twice. So. Really? No, I lived with it. I'm good. Yeah.
I really can't wait to talk about Miss Juneteenth, but since this is a conversation for, actors among actors, I thought I would just start with how you got into the arts. I know you went to South Carolina Governor's School for the Arts. Tell us about that.
Well, I guess I have a traveling family. Let me see, how do I make the sort of long story short? My siblings and I, my dad was in the service, so we moved around a lot. And with that, you sort of adopt a kind of adaptation, and you entertain yourself. You know what I mean? So it was plays, karaoke, dancing in the living room, all that kind of stuff. So I just kind of became a bossy child, getting people together to do creative things. And then we moved to South Carolina, and they had this really interesting program that it was a kind of a boarding school, but a public boarding school. So we didn't really have a ton of money. You auditioned, and I didn't think I was going to be in the arts. I wanted to actually I wanted to major in mass communications and international relations, actually. And I just fell in love with the process, and I fell in love with being in ensembles and, being so intimate with people in a way. It's almost like the same thing, this sort of investigative, collaboration and wanting to know why things work the way that they do. So that's kind of how it happened. I went there, and then I still thought I was going to go to college for something else. And one of my teachers was like, nah, you should just look, we'll help you out. We'll help you with some of your, the cost of the applications. Because I was I'm not spending money on nonsense. I'm not doing that. That's not my life. I come from West Indian, very practical, you know what I mean? First gen. So I don't think they were really having that. But then when I got into some of the conservatories, I had to be honest with myself about what really got me going and what got my heart singing. And kind of the rest is history. I ended up going to Juilliard and doing, actually, the first movie I did was called The Express.
Oh, okay.
And I did that right out of Juilliard, and Chad was in it too. Rob Brown was the lead. It was a biopic about Ernie Davis, the first Heisman winner, the first African-American Heisman Trophy winner. And that was actually the first time that I worked with Chadwick Boseman, because we were both in that period piece together.
Yeah. Do you have any stories that come to mind when you think about Chad?
Oh man,
so devastated by that loss and shock.
Man, I just, there are really so many stories and so many instances where I just feel like he was, I don't really even know how to say it, but ahead of his time and so gracious. And I just think of times in my life and my career, just my actual day-to-day life, where it feels like an obligation. He was never one of those people, no matter how many tasks were put before him. And I wasn't around. I can't imagine what it was like when he was suffering and fighting through that illness. But when we did work together, there were so many times where there were things to complain about, and I never saw him complain. And then when you see him, greeting people, and he's on the press junkets, and you realize what he was going through, it's like, wow, I could, I think we could all take a page out of that book. So that's all that's what's been sitting with me lately. So that's all I can really share. It's been really heavy, what a blessing this like lifetime is, and to use it and not feel like this is an obligation and, I got to do this and I'm tired. It's like, you never know what people are carrying, and they're still being a blessing to so many people,
Yeah, it sounds like a real masterclass in professionalism. All
and but it's not even just professionalism. It's like spirit. Because technically, professionally, if you're, carrying something like that, you have every right to be tired and to be like, I'm good. I don't want to deal with people. That's just generosity of spirit in a way that's like, that's next level.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about Miss Juneteenth. I love this movie. I saw it at Sundance. Just for people who haven't got a chance to see it, you star as Turquoise, who is raising a daughter named Kai, and Turquoise has her heart set on Kai entering the Miss Juneteenth pageant because it was something that Turquoise won when she was a teenager. And of course, as is always the case, what parents want for their children isn't necessarily what the kids want. So, thus the movie ensues. Why don't you go ahead and just describe Turquoise in your own words?
How I love Turquoise. Turquoise is again, me and these tenses. I'm not good with the tenses, like all happening at once. But she is one of the people that you walk by on the street that's like keeping the world going, kind of like our first line workers, this working day and night, struggling, keeping the family afloat. But we never really hear their side of the story, or we never hear her voice, or it's like someone else is the lead and she just kind of walks by. And what I love about what Channing did in this is she moved the viewfinder to the woman who's silent in the background, just making it happen, and there were a lot of opportunities to live there. She had a lot of opportunities. Well, not a lot of opportunities. Turquoise. She was one of the Miss Juneteenth winners, actually, when she was in school. And, she fell on hard times, and the community started to look down on her. And so she's sort of vicariously putting it all onto her daughter, trying to provide a better life for her. And I think, any parent, any person can understand, anyone with a dream can sort of understand the story and place something in their lives, or someone in their lives, into the place of either Kai or Turquoise. And it's funny that I'm playing Turquoise, but like I said about my like past, I'm actually more Kai. Like I did it because I was like, coming into your own despite the best wishes of your family, pushing up against it, and also receiving the blessings that they give you. I'm a Black woman, my ancestors and family have done a great deal to get me where I am, to be able to, take steps forward. So sure. It's hard to look at them and be like, yeah, but I'm not doing that. I know you see it this way, but I'm not doing that. So I just fell in love when I read the script. I fell in love with the character of Kai too. And I just knew that this was a story that like I would be able to connect to. I was also raised by a single mom and wanted to pay homage to that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. You definitely hit on like some of the main things that I loved about the movie is that we never get to hear from someone like Turquoise at the center of a story. And even though it takes place in Fort Worth, Texas area, I believe. It's very specific to that, not only to Black people, but that specific Black community. Yet it allows you to get into some of the deeper issues of, I would say, class, because I would say Turquoise is a working class person. She's got 2 jobs. She works in the service economy. And Miss Juneteenth, the sort of clout of Miss Juneteenth is all about, you know, that talented 10th of Black folks.
Absolutely.
Right. Yeah. So what was it like for you to play a woman who is, you know, trying to make $1 out of 15 cents?
Man, I've been that one.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I just feel like the humanity. The biggest thing was, you know, and Channing and I talked about what you just said, the specificity of this particular woman. Like, we didn't want it to be like a general, like, oh, she's going through this and this is all Black people. It was definitely based on the community that Channing Godfrey Peoples, our director, came from. And I just went and hung out in that bar and got to know those people and worked a shift or two and learned some dances and spent time with people. And, you know, it didn't feel like, when you're there, it doesn't feel like someone who's trying to make $1 out of 15 cents. It's just life, you know, but Turquoise in particular had other aspirations for herself and for her daughter. So again, that's kind of a class thing, you know, and it's really interesting because the more that I'm on social media and things now, you see that sort of aspirational divide happening, you know, amongst people of color. It's really fascinating. Like, it's actually something we only kind of touch on, but I'm also fascinated with like colorism and, like you said, W.E.B. Du Bois and just the history of all of that, and what we have to do to assimilate and to be considered functioning, successful people in the society. For example, there's a scene where Kai, I don't know, I'm not allowed to give things away. I don't know how it goes, but Turquoise presses Kai's hair and straightens her natural hair. And, you know, Kai, coming into her own, decides how she wants to present herself, which is embracing her natural beauty. And that was something that was really important to you know, Channing and I, seeing all these different textures, even in the girls, different colors and shapes and sizes, that even this beauty pageant wasn't sort of what you would expect from a beauty pageant. It was more of like a scholastic and, you know, altruistic beauty pageant. But it was something that, like, I thought that moment was really powerful, her deciding, well, why should I have to like change myself and straighten my hair and all that stuff, you know? You and I kind of doing our own little thing here, but like, there are steps, you know, there are definitely people who are like, I don't know how professional that is. And you're like, well, that's interesting. Why not? My vocabulary is great. So the like texture of my hair, like somehow changes my IQ. That's really interesting. So yeah, like just having those conversations in such a subtle way. And I don't even know if everyone picks up on those little moments, but there's so many moments. Even the father character, Ronnie, played by Kendrick Sampson, you know, he could have been a flat, like one-dimensional, two-dimensional bad dad, you know, but he's actually making choices that he feels are right for the family. And it's refreshing to be a part of a project that there's a lot of gray. Like, no one's perfect. Turquoise is flawed as hell. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that on this, but she's really flawed. And it's nice to be able to do that too, to not be just like, you know, long suffering and have like the highest moral compass, which is a prototype that we see a lot, you know. She has some issues, and there's a lot of stuff, you know, you guys are SAG, so you know, a lot of stuff we shot that was like crazy. We didn't get to keep because it was too long.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. What was one of those scenes that you were proud of that got cut?
Oh man! There are two. There's one that Kendrick and I did in a car, which was like kind of like their breakup scene. And now you get it at the end. You sort of get it, but it was like this beautiful scene, and he killed it. And I was like, where is it? You know? And then there was another scene where Turquoise is protecting Kai from some men who were like catcalling her and grabbing her, and it was like super vicious.
Okay.
You know, and
so
that's the kind of thing.
Canning and get that on the DVD.
You know what I mean? Like, but you know, that like that's a part of kind of the thing about what you said at the very beginning. Like, watching things, like some of it is just you just do it, and then you sort of, you have the baby and then you just let it go. It's not really mine after that. So.
Right. And you brought up two things that I specifically in the movie that I loved and wanted to ask you about. The first thing is about natural hair. That moment, and I think you're right when you say a lot of people missed it, because in reading what's been written about the film, I didn't really see anyone write about this with the specificity I was looking for, which was, did you have to do, like, just go for it in one take, or did she get her hair straightened and then make it relaxed a couple times so you all had, you know, chances to go through it?
Let me tell you, Alexis Chikese is amazing. That's the young lady who played Kai.
Your daughter.
She's amazing. This is her first project. I think people should definitely watch out for her. I think she's going to school first, which is, you know, great. But this is her first project. She showed up and she like hunkered down and figured out how to be on a set and everything. And she was just incredible. And it actually made me, I think it probably made me more maternal, because it was like another person joining the sisterhood of like acting, of like the acting circus, you know what I mean? So wanting to protect her and sort of not guide her, but be there for her if she needed anything. But yeah, man, that was a one taker. I think, you know, it was a very small production. So she had the one opportunity. Things were tight.
Yeah. People don't realize, like, to go back, like to go from getting your hair straightened to getting it, to having it go natural again.
That's hours.
Like, that's a process.
And she had a lot of hair.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a one take, and she did it beautifully, and you know, she really just dropped in. She was such a delight to work with. Yeah,
I could really feel your maternal chemistry, and I love that this was also a mother-daughter story as much as it was, you know, Turquoise's story about self-acceptance. Do you? Oh, and you know, this is the thing that I most loved about the movie was, I'm not going to spoil the ending. I'll speak about it in vague terms, but there's a moment when Turquoise has to make a choice between, in this love triangle that she finds.
Girl, yes. Talk about it.
And I just loved how you handled it and how Channing handled it, because it was so unexpected, but it felt very real and authentic and aspirational at the same time. Talk about that process for you playing that.
Yeah, it's really progressive. like everyone's like, oh, this simple film about Texas and Fort Worth, and I'm like, there's some progressive things happening here, people.
Yeah, that's right. Point it out. Set the record straight.
Yeah, like a woman choosing herself over, you know, most of the films that we grew up watching, even Disney, I think, you know, like it kind of brainwashes you a little bit, or I don't say brainwashes you, but it veers you in the direction of Prince Charming, you know, that Prince Charming will arrive and then your sorrows will be over happily ever after. And in this story, Turquoise decides that she wants something for herself, you know, and for her daughter. And I found it extremely empowering, and just really different. Cause, you know, especially with us, you know, you're always seeing us, we're fighting for a man. We like desperately want a man. We can't find a man. It's like, and it's like this time she has options. But she knows that she needs a sort of like internal growth and strength and to test some things out for herself, which is something that, yeah, it's an interesting story to tell. I can't say I completely relate to it. I'm probably a little sappier than she is, but I just love that part of the story. You know, it's extremely progressive.
Yeah, it's really it sends a message without preaching at all. And you know, by that point in the movie, it's real clear neither one of them is for her, you know. You know, like she has bringing a lot more to the table than they can, you know, provide or meet her with. So it's a relief for her to like actually step into that.
But like, how many times do women, you know, you're like, I'm a certain age, I'm a this, I'm a that, maybe I should this is a good option. Mm-hmm. So that's what I love about it. Mm-hmm. It's like, I'm just getting started. I love that you can be like a mother of someone that's going off to college and still know that like change is possible and believe it, and sort of move into ownership and like a new way of living your life, and a shift in perspective. And I think one of the things that is probably resonating with people, this year was the first Juneteenth that was like celebrated on the books, right? For horrible reasons, because of what we were seeing, Black people being, killed in the streets. But people came together and decided, like, we are going to have solidarity. We're going to honor ancestors. We're going to look up all of our holidays, etc. And so it was really interesting to have shot this film a year ago, and like nobody knew kind of what, other than the people in Texas and like the few mom and pop soul food joints, on MLK Boulevard in every city, you know what I mean, that would have like something up. It was really interesting to do it the year before and then have that synchronicity and have people interested in what that meant. And one of the things that it does mean is like freedom can come, but it may be a little late. It may be partial. It may be extra, negotiations as a part of it. And I think we all feel that. And it's definitely Turquoise and Kai's story, and everybody in this film story.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the timing of Juneteenth, I mean, it's in the title of the movie, and
crazy.
who would have known that like there'd be this national awareness of what Juneteenth is exactly at the time that this movie is coming out. I mean, it's sort of miraculous. Yeah. What was it like being directed by a Black woman? Had you been directed by a Black woman before?
Yes, I have. Nima Barnett. Oh man, someone's gonna kill me. Oh Lord, I have. Okay, so I've been fortunate for a few times, but not like so intimately, and also not on a project that was her, like, from her life, right?
Right.
So it was almost like playing, like being in a biography, like a biopic or something like that. Because some of the people that I met, she's like, that's a little bit of that. And I got that part from her. And I'm like, oh, okay. So I had to honor these people. I couldn't just be like, okay, that's interesting, but I'm going to do my thing. I've lived in Georgia. I've lived in South Carolina. So I kind of feel like I know what the South is, but that's the thing. Like, it even humbled me because this is a very specific thing for this community, and I came in like, oh yeah, I know what it is. Yeah. And it was like, no, you don't. Observe, chill, and you'll see. And I actually learned a lot of new things and appreciated that community. Did I answer your question? I feel like I just went off on a tangent.
No, I mean, that's fine. It's all, starting place.
What was your question?
A lot of
a Black director. Yes, female. Like, it was wonderful. It was just so intimate because it was her vision. She was very specific, about like what it was, and in a way that's wonderful because I come in with a lot, but I think I also come in with a lot of times because people don't know what to do with me, or like as like the person of color on set, you kind of come in and people are like, what it is to be the Black person. You just do your, you know what I mean? But she had more information about this experience than I had, which is beautiful. And she was so driven, and she had just given birth to her first child. And she was shooting with a baby like under the arm, on the shoulder. Her husband, Neil, and another one of the producers was always on set. It was one of those moments of like, wow, you can kind of have it all. And make it happen and have a support system. And we were a small production, we were really small. It was very grassroots. A lot of the people in the film were locals that actually worked at the bar or at the funeral home, etc. So it just felt like I was coming in on somebody's like Christmas dinner. Like I just got invited, like I crashed the wedding, and I was like, do I fit in? Are they going to be able to tell? So that was kind of the way it felt.
Yeah, that's really beautiful. I wanted to shift gears to my colleague Candace Frederick interviewed you for the New York Times when the movie came out, and at least in my little world, we were all talking about how great it was. And specifically, you spoke about your experience working on Sleepy Hollow and while you were going through serious illness. And I just thought it was very brave, and that you spoke about it in like the most diplomatic, sort of like, I've made peace with this kind of way that was, I thought, really generous. Was that the first time you spoke publicly about that experience?
I think like here or there, you know, I think I said this in an interview. I'm not sure, but with certain things, I knew I wanted to be well before and like really get perspective, you know? And yeah, I mean, I guess it was, there's so many things about, you know, now we're sort of, when I was in that space, it was before Me Too and before this reckoning with Hollywood, with color and all this stuff. So people can only, like, looking back, imagine like, oh, shit, man, maybe something was going on, you know? But at the time, you just kind of deal with it. And it changes you. And the thing is, I wouldn't change it. I wouldn't change it for the world. I know my body differently. I have a different spiritual relationship. I mean, it's just, you know, some things happen and it's like, it makes you who you are. And it also makes the world a more interesting, gray, colorful, dangerous, beautiful, scary, all that kind of shit place. And I appreciate that.
Mm-hmm. And knowing what you know now, speaking to your fellow actors, like, and what to be an actor from an underrepresented group who's experiencing unfair treatment in the industry and is naturally afraid to speak up about it because they will be labeled unfairly. What advice would you give to an actor from an unrepresented group?
Well, the other thing is, because of what's happened and people having these conversations and saying these things, right? And like, even like, what happened to me? What happened to so-and-so? Now I'm going to sets and they're having diversity calls, right? And they're having like discrimination and sexual harassment orientations and things like that. So we're starting on a different foot already, you know, which is exciting. But if all that's happening and you still feel like you can't talk, there are advocates, there are, you know, lawyers or SAG people, representatives, you know, that you should be able to go to. And I find it, I built this over time, but having like a group of actors, producers, people I can bounce things off of and be like, is this cool? Should this be happening? Is that? And then, you know, with enough of a consensus, people were like, no, you should talk to somebody about this. Like, it shouldn't happen that way. Or, oh, that's interesting. Okay, like, let it ride for a second and see, you know, because then also we can be sort of, because it's such a dangerous space sometimes, hyper vigilant, you know? So it's good to just have a sounding board. But I think speaking up is important. And there are places now, there are things and people whose jobs is specifically to do that, to like be there for you, to speak to, and that, you know, it'll be anonymous, et cetera. Those are things I wish I had, you know? But I'm glad, again, I feel like we go through those things so that, you know, people have them now.
Yeah. It sounds like great advice. I heard
Say that again?
I said, that sounds like great advice, a great perspective.
Yeah, I felt like it was kind of general, but.
No, I mean, I thought it was useful.
The world has changed, you know, in good ways, I think. You know, some of the people that were, well, I'm not going to say that. We won't have to edit that, but yeah.
I think it's a conversation that a lot of performers are having, obviously. And so it is good to seek support, you know, and increasingly I'm glad that increasingly to hear from someone like you who's working, like, that there are those things happening on set. So that's great. I heard that you started writing your own scripts. What can you tell us about that and any future projects?
Absolutely nothing. Absolutely nothing. I am so not superstitious, but I'm holding it tight. I'm like, it's my baby. I'm nursing it. I'm, you know, it's only about 5 months.
Okay.
Got a
And
few more.
had you been writing prior to that, or this is like your first time kind of jumping in full throated to do it?
I think, like dibbling and dabbling, shorts, writing with groups of actors that I would read plays with and things just for fun, just sort of for neuroplasticity's sake, just to keep the mind, because, you kind of do the same thing. You're learning lines, you're performing. It's like, I got to try something new. I learn to play the guitar. I got to do this, do that. So my brain functions and expands. But then we had the quarantine. I had already started and I was up to like 75 pages. And I was like, you should finish this. There's no excuse. You stuck in the house. And then I was like, okay, well, let's do another one, and that was like the best time ever to sort of do that. Yeah. And since then, I think you asked about other projects. I'm not sure what I can say. I'm not sure if you'll have to edit this out or not. I just did a project with Amazon, and I'm currently doing a project with HBO.
Okay.
Right now. Yeah. So I'm working and working and working and working.
Yeah. And I mean, as you well know, so many actresses have been in that position where I guess I'm going to have to write a script because they're not coming to me, the ones that I'm necessarily looking for all the time. So I'm just going to have to sit down and do it. So
yeah, I think it was Toni Morrison that was like, there was a book that she wanted to read and she wasn't finding it. So she had to write it. And
right.
Yeah, there's like there is a cinematic experience I really, really want to see come to life. And I'm like, I can't wait for it. I might be waiting my whole life. So yeah, that's a thing. But also I'm just super inspired by so many of the people who've already done it. I think, every time someone takes the baton and is like, I'm going to do it. You're like, wow, you can do it like that. I didn't know you could do it like that. And I'm one of those people. I never really thought of myself as someone that was like a little scared or cautious, but I'm seeing people just rip down doors. They're like, this is what it's going to be. And it's really inspiring, and it makes you like, why was that ever a limitation? So yeah, I definitely recommend people doing it. It's healthy. And not everything will turn into a project necessarily. I think a lot of people have tons of scripts, but the exercise as well is good.
Beautiful. Well, it's lovely to talk to you. So happy to see you flourishing in your career, and much good luck during award season.
Thank you. It is a pleasure, and thank you for your well wishes. I can feel it. I can feel it. Yeah, thank you. And I've never been like, awards is not like a thing I like in our wildest dreams. Like this movie that we went down there and did, and like, you know what I mean? Like, no way. But I just hope more people will see it. That's the thing that I would like, that, we get more eyes on the work. So that more opportunities come out of that.
Right. Yeah. So you heard it, y'all. Go see it.
Go see it.
It's right on your computer. You can get it right away and you won't regret it.